announce any quarterback or anything, but just in general, like, how has that been for you trying to work through this process with a brand new person involved and trying to get to the point where you want it to be ready for Sunday?
Yeah, it's been a great process. I mean, the guys in that room, I have a lot of faith in them, the way they work together, the type of personalities they bring to it. So it's been a lot of fun over these last couple days, couple weeks, and excited to see kind of where it goes moving forward.
Do you anticipate divvying up any of the starters' reps at that position?
In terms of?
As far as quarterback throughout the week?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a plan in place in terms of how we want to handle that. Certainly, we're not going to be completely forward with that in the media, but I think it's something that we certainly have talked through and are prepared for, and I think everybody's ready to go.
In regards to Josh, it sounds like he has a good familiarity with the offense, but what are the hurdles that he faces if he were the guy to be ready by Sunday?
Yeah, I think, as you said, Josh is a really smart player, comes in and works really hard to understand the offense and know his role. And I think just some of the nuances that you've kind of tweaked and changed over the course of the offseason and training camp and some of those little details and familiarity with some of his teammates and just getting a feel for how they see things, how they come out at the top of routes, what they're thinking in the run game. You know, those are the type of things we work through, and he's done a great job embracing that.
Were you part of the kind of identifying Josh as somebody you could bring in? I mean, I know they said back in March there were discussions, but did that conversation continue, and were you part of that?
Yeah, I think those conversations are ongoing throughout the year. I mean, we're going to look at every opportunity we have to make our roster better, to make this team better. I think the players understand that and appreciate that, and certainly as a coaching staff and as a front office, I think that's the forefront of our minds in everything we do.
What does it to acclimate himself to a locker room, to new teammates, to kind of all you guys?
I think his personality kind of warrants itself to that. I mean, he's very engaging, very friendly, so I think guys connect with him easily. So he's really done a great job of jumping into the quarterback room, jumping into the offense, and jumping into that team room and being one of the guys.
Clayton to get him to this point? I mean, you know, just the body of work over the offseason and preseason.
Yeah, I think Clayton's done a really nice job. I mean, from the day he got here, just his work ethic, the way he's kind of committed himself to learning the offense, understanding the NFL game, doing things the way that we need that position to do them. It's been really fun to watch. His growth's been tremendous. Really excited about where he's at.
Humphrey said he's very even keel in the huddle, kind of not too low. How much does that help kind of him absorb everything that's going on, kind of make that adjustment from college to,
I think it's critical. I mean, and honestly, probably critical at all positions. If you're going to be one of those guys who rides the emotional roller coaster during a game, it's going to be really hard in the heat of battle to kind of lower your nerves and kind of carry out your responsibilities, communicate effectively to your teammates. So that's something we look for, not just the quarterback, but really everybody who steps on the field.
How difficult is your job right now because of this uncertainty and not having Kyler and going through this whole quarterback thing? How difficult is that for you?
I think my job's fairly easy. I mean, I got a great group of guys around me from a staff perspective, really happy with the players in that room, from the head coach, the GM on down. It's made my role really easy, and it's been a lot of fun to do on a daily basis, and certainly expect that to continue moving forward.
You mentioned in August that with Colt that you were learned some things from him and that you were leaning on him. How much is him not being here now, how much does that affect the overall, your overall role?
I think a lot of it goes back to some of those things we hit on in the offseason is kind of we're going to tailor the room and what we do to who we have in the room. So as that changes, certainly we're going to change the way that we interact with those players. And, with Josh and Clayton and Jeff, just kind of figuring out what they like, what they don't like, and how that fits what we do and how we want to move forward, I think is a big part of the role and something we're certainly focused on.
Can you share a little bit of your process? You may have talked about this previously, but scripting X amount of plays, things like that, obviously it depends on which guy as far as what that is, but what's your process going into the game?
Yeah, I think it's a balance, and it's kind of like a Venn diagram of what we do well and what they struggle with. And we got to find kind of that mix of things that make us difficult to defend, allow our best players to be effective, but also give their scheme issues. So I think that's kind of a big part of the process as you work through game planning week in and week out.
You'll be on the field during the games?
Yeah, I will be down calling it.
If Clayton's not the starter, he's still one snap away from playing. How comfortable are you, and how ready is he to be kind of an everyday player in the NFL?
Yeah, very comfortable, and I think that's the message to everyone in that offensive room, and that's the nature of the NFL is you're one play away. No matter what your role is, you got to know your role, you have to be prepared to excel in your role, but then you also have to be prepared to take on the next role if that comes to fruition, and I think he's certainly embraced that, and I think a lot of the guys in that room have. I think kind of that work ethic and that kind of always seeking new knowledge and new experience and learning from every rep and learning from other players' reps, I think it's really helped him prepare for that.
How's the whole relationship been with Kyler since you got here and now here, and then with him being named a captain, what do you think that sends and what message that sends to him and to the team?
Yeah, he's been unbelievable, really, since we've walked in the building. Just done everything we've asked from a rehab standpoint, from a learning the offense standpoint, from an engagement in the offensive room and getting to know his teammates and things like that. So really pleased with where he's at, kind of how he's handled things, and certainly expect that to continue moving forward. And I think that's one of the main reasons you see him as a captain. You know, I certainly view him as a franchise quarterback and the leader of this organization. I think his teammates do too, so was really happy for him to kind of get that nod, and it's been good.
Washington not being able to have any tape on what you guys are doing as a unit as it stands now, especially if Josh is the starter, like they can't go back look at preseason games with him in this game. Like, what kind of advantage is that?
I think certainly, you know, there's some advantage to the uncertainty of, hey, we have to defend this, do we have to defend that, do we need to be ready for that? But I also think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to blocking, tackling, throwing, catching. So there's a fundamental aspect of the game that we need to do better than them if we want to win. I think at the end of the day, that's got to be our focus, and my guess is it's going to be their focus as well.
What are some common characteristics that you see between Clayton and Josh, just in terms of how you want to run the offense?
Yeah, I think one of them we hit on a second ago is that even keel personality. Like neither of them ever gets rattled. They can always handle whatever situation is thrown their way. So there's a comfort level as a play caller knowing that the guy with the ball in his hand is under control, in a good spot, ready to handle whatever comes, and is ready to react. So I think that's been good to see.
How long have you been thinking about what your first play call would be?
Up until probably about this week, there was 100 ideas, and I'm trying to narrow it down to one that's going to start the game, and then I got to call the second play after that, so I can't dwell on it too much.
Thought about for a while, or had picked out, and like this is what I want to call, or like have a favorite in mind, or
I don't know that just yet. We got to watch during the week of practice and see what it looks like.
Are you a script guy, Drew?
In terms of
your first 15 plays, 10 plays, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there's a balance there. I think you always kind of have an idea of how you think the flow of the game is going to go and certain things that you want to come up early or certain plays that you want to use in certain ways. But I think there's also an element to understanding the flow of the game and the players you have. And, you know, those first one or two plays maybe come off the sheet. But after that, the situation is going to dictate a lot of what's going on. We may be in the red zone. We may be in a second and long, you know, so those things can certainly change the direction you go as a play caller.
What's your overall evaluation of Jeff Driscoll and him, the decision to have him on the practice squad when he hadn't practiced or done a whole lot, for the last few weeks of training camp?
Yeah, I think obviously, and I know for Jeff's, it was frustrating having that injury, just kind of keeping him out of some of those games. But I thought Jeff did a really nice job in practice and in the meeting room of learning the offense, taking care of the football, making good decisions. Certainly his athleticism and his size and strength show up. So really excited to have him here. I think he's a very valuable player on this offense.
What do you think it's been like for Josh coming in 2 weeks before week one, having to learn whatever version of the offense you're running now, having to learn his teammates, having to get on the same page with all that other stuff? Like, that's a lot to take in and do in 2 weeks. What do you think it's been like for him?
Yeah, I'm sure it's moved fast. I don't want to speak for him. Certainly he'd be able to answer that better than me. But there's a lot going on. And I think the best part is I know he can handle it, having been around him and just type of the player and person he is. But, you're moving. You're dealing with all the stuff outside of football. And then on top of that, certainly you are getting to know a new system, new teammates. You got an opponent you have to prepare for. So there's certainly a lot going on, but I think he's done a really nice job of handling it.
What do you see in the Commanders and the challenge that they will, put forth defensively for this game?
Yeah, I think it's a very talented defense. It's a really well-coached system. It's very sound. I think they play very hard. Certainly the front makes that defense go. I mean, they got a lot of dynamic players up front that can get after the passer, that can stop the run. But I think overall, all 11 guys that they put on the field are really well-coached and do a really nice job of making it harder on offense.
You and the Cleveland staff had some success against them late in the season last year. Can you go back to that tape at all, or you just have to move the page forward in 2023?
I think it's a mix. I think there's certainly aspects of that where you're saying, hey, this is a part of their scheme, this is how they do things, and we may want to attack it this way. And then there's that balance of, hey, the players that we were trying to highlight or the players that we were trying to attack may be different this time around, from our standpoint and from their standpoint.
How would you say your staff meetings are like with the staff, a pretty young group, of coaches, assistant coaches? What are those? How would you characterize what those meetings are like in terms of input?
They've been great. I think they're high energy, and that's something, I know I've mentioned this. I've been very fortunate to be around some really good coordinators that I've taken a lot from, and I've certainly tried to mirror a lot of the things that we did when I was a young coach, looking at how they ran the room, how they put a game plan together, how they manage their staff. So I've leaned heavily on that, and certainly that, I think I've leaned heavily on the guys that are currently in the room with me that I have a lot of faith in.
Has anything surprised
surprised you about Josh? Obviously, you've had familiarity with him during your time in Cleveland, but now that he's come in, has anything kind of been a surprise?
No, I'd say not really. The one thing is probably that he has stayed cool and calm and collected through all the transition and all the quick change and all that we're asking him to do. But I kind of expected that. But certainly to see it and watch it happen was good. And so other than that, no, I think he's been great.
Sam Howell's the round pick, Clay the fifth round pick. Can you see kind of Clay taking that same type of path eventually?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think certainly the circumstances of each quarterback's entry into the league and what offense they're in and what you're asking them to do is going to, have an impact on where they go and how they progress in their career. But certainly have very high expectations for Clayton, and I think he's certainly working hard to reach his own expectations, which I know are very high, for all the right reasons. So.
How's it getting a guy like Elijah up to speed after picking him up late last week?
Yeah, and that's kind of the as you get guys that are going to help us and they try to embrace their roles, and I know JG has talked about that, it's really important for them to understand that, hey, right now we're asking you to do this. And that may change, but you got here a week ago. This is what we need to do in a short amount of time to be able to help us as an offense, help us as a team. So I think all those guys have really come in and embraced that. Certainly seen that from the guys that are already in the room. So I think it's been a pretty smooth transition.
Drew, any nerves or butterflies for you this week?
Yeah, sure. I mean, even right now talking to you guys, I think it's it's something you dream about a long time, certainly excited about it, you're nervous about it. And I think you have to acknowledge that or otherwise it's going to eat you alive. So, but yeah, I got plenty of people I can talk to about it, but I'm really excited to get out there on Sunday and play football.
Do you have a routine you go through pregame?
Yeah, now this will be my first time in this role going through it, but certainly kind of have a routine in terms of how I like to go through my day. I've expressed this to other coaches. I'm not, I wish we were like JV football, like rolled off the bus, jumping jacks, and kicked off. But I get that we have to go through pregame, so I'm going to have to hold on a little bit as we do that. But no, really looking forward to it.
You really asked about Elijah. What's the challenge with 4 new offensive linemen and just figuring out, I know it's not all your decision, obviously, but just figuring out who's going to be active on Sunday as the backups when you have those 4 been here a week and you have 3 on the practice squad?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a big part of trying to figure out who's going to be active each week is what roles we need for that game. And certainly at the O-line position, that's going to come down to who's healthy, where we feel like the game's going to be played, and with guys that have just gotten here, who can handle it mentally, and then who can go out there and physically execute the offense the way we need to. So I think that's been a big thing for us as coaches is, hey, this is our job. We got to get these guys up to speed. We need to make sure they know what to do, how to do it, communicate with their teammates effectively so that if they are put in the game, they can go out there and do it at a high level.
The Cardinals showed some of it in flag play and saw in Minnesota you playing catch with your daughter before the game. Is that kind of a pregame ritual in a way, or?
If I could do anything consistently with a toddler over and over again, I would call it a ritual. Right now, I'm just like lucky if she acknowledges me when I walk in the house and wants to play catch with me every once in a while. But no, it was a lot of fun. Anytime she's down on the field, I love being able to spend time with her and watching her run around. So really got to enjoy that. It was a special moment for us as a family.
Look at this team getting prepared and everything. How do you kind of overview going into a first game? Like, do you guys have a pretty good idea of what you're expecting to see, or are you like a lot of people where you're like, okay, we got to kind of see how this plays out in real time?
I think week one's full of surprises. Personnel, there's different players playing in the preseason. There are the regular season. You're trying to get evaluation on people. You're trying to get evaluation on scheme. You'll see stuff people do, and it's like, I hope they do that, and they kind of the same evaluation that you do, which is that was a bad idea, us included, right? We had a squib kick that went for about 12 yards, which was awesome. So, it's week one. There's a lot of surprises, but you kind of just settle in, hope the players stick to their training, and anything they see, hopefully we've shown them something similar.
You guys have a lot of talent in your group. I mean, Chris Boyd comes over, you got Josh Woods, Gardeck's already been there, Prater, really consistent. Is it one of your deeper groups that you've had since you've been here?
Only because most of those guys are healthy right now. We've had some good groups here since I've been here. Sometimes they're relatively unknown guys that have played their way into kind of showing they're good players. Part of our deal the last couple of years is you felt good about certain aspects of our special teams group, and then a guy would miss 2 or 3 games, or he'd go to IR. So those guys never really got a chance to play together as a group. So hopefully we stay healthy, this week and can let them play together on Sunday.
To that point, how does that also affect it sometimes if starters are hurt and then someone is moved up to a starter and then doesn't play as much snaps on special teams?
Yeah, all of that stuff comes into play, and this is year 20 for me. It usually happens at some point during the season. You're going to get hit with what I call roster attrition, and that's the guys that you're actually playing with who are going into the week or going into the season. Here's a projected role for them, but something happens in front of them on their side of the ball, and they can't play as much for you, so you're training somebody new. But it's all part of the way the NFL works.
Andy Lee was here for so long. What goes into just developing rapport between a kicker and a holder?
Time, reps. The more they do it, the better they get at it. There's certainly, 3 parts to the field goal kicking. It's a snap, it's a hold, it's a kick, and we're just trying to do everything we can to get, present Matt with a good ball and let him do his thing.
Jeff, is it just simple to say, go practice that for 2 hours, or does it really take weeks to kind of get it down together?
I think it takes a while. Even in the offseason when Nolan was here before and he was competing with Andy was in Charlotte most of the offseason. He's got a young family and spent a lot of time, as he should, there. But it provided Nolan some time in the past. And, the history it means something, right? I mean, like guys get comfortable with each other and they can communicate a lot better and be on the same page. So it's an ever-evolving thing, and you hope guys are together for years, but that's not reality all of the time, and we're still working towards that.
With the new rule on kickoffs, I know it's hard to predict, but overall, how much do you think that'll be used with fair catches, and what's your thought on that?
My thought is for us to abide by the rules that the league provides us. I'm for anything player safety wise. I don't think that early on in the season it's going to play a major factor. There are some situational things that are going to come up in which you're going to see the fair catch. All of us as a kickoff return group, 32 teams, if the ball was being kicked off from the 50 and the kicker hits a sky ball where you're likely to get tackled inside the 20, you're fair catching that all day long. Most guys are going. So now it's like, okay, are people going to squib in those situations? Like, you start to overthink some things, but early on the season, I think most teams are going to let their guys compete, and if you show to be a little bit deficient in some areas, that may be an option. There's some games in which kickers are really good at disguising where the ball is going. So, you may have a return up and the ball goes the other side of the field. It's like, this is not ideal. I can see coaches saying, hey, we had a right return on. The ball got kicked way over here to the left. Let's just fair catch it and live to see another day. But we'll see. I think it'll be after the first quarter of the season before teams kind of reveal themselves as whatever their philosophy is going to be. And early on the season, teams that kick touchbacks, like they have strong-legged kickers and their intent is to kick touchbacks, they're going to do that. You get into some of the games in December, January on the East Coast, even the strongest of kickers kicking into a 3-club wind, when it's 12 degrees outside, it's not getting to the end zone. So sometimes you don't know, right? If we were to play this week and they kick, Sly puts the ball, in the 8th row every time, you have no idea if we were going to fair catch or not. So that would be true for a lot of teams, but we'll see as time goes on.
You mentioned maybe early in the season, let guys play. I'm curious, the way kickoff returns, especially over the past few years, do you have to have a lot of conversations with return men? Because if it seems to me that a player, if he has a choice, he'd rather bring it out because he wants to see if he can break something or have something happen. So do you have to sometimes, hey, like, you got to understand where you are a little bit better or whatever? Do those conversations have to happen?
The answer is yes. You're always trying to coach and educate your guys on plenty of things, but I would say this: when I've had those conversations with returners, it's not always about the returner. You get into a week where I've been in games where 4 guys on our starting kickoff return team got hurt in the first half. So you're playing with guys who haven't taken the reps throughout the week. Like, backups don't get a lot of reps in this league. And the ball's kicked 4 yards deep. Like, dude, these guys don't have it as much as the guys who've been repping this stuff. So at times, those things enter the equation more than just the returner's ability to be productive.
Do you notice anything different as far as you've worked with a lot of veteran coordinators, but now you got 2 first-year guys on the offensive side and defensive side? Are you noticing any difference, or is it, coaches are coaches, and how does that relationship develop between you, Drew, and Nick?
Yeah, I think it's still developing. Age. I was a coordinator, I think, when I was 30, so I've been in those guys' shoes before. I don't know that factors in when you're getting to know guys throughout a given week, throughout a given season. You're able to bounce things off of guys. You kind of get to know what guys' strengths are. Maybe ask some advice like, hey, Nick, this is something that's giving us some issues. And a coverage standpoint, maybe there's something he can lend in that regard. But, I think that part of it's still developing.
As assistant head coach, how much has Jonathan leaned on you throughout this whole process, especially as one of the more experienced NFL coaches on the roster, on the team?
I've always kind of tried to handle questions that I'm asked by a head coach, to just give my opinion and see. Maybe he shares the same opinion. Maybe he sees something completely different. I don't know. He'd be a better guy to ask to say how much has he, leaned on. I just try to answer the questions that he may have about a variety of things as best I can.
Jeff, when you say 3-club win, is that a golf reference?
Yes.
Is that typical for what you guys, the terminology you use with kickers?
Most specialists I've been around are pretty good golfers. They've got a lot of free time on their hands in the off season for sure. It's a pretty standard reference, but I don't know that it's common league wide.
Where have we seen a guy like Greg Dortch grow the most?
Good question. I think Dortch, the longer the guy's been in the league, the more situations he's been in, his decision-making improves. And the things that kind of go unseen by by people that aren't really looking for it, it's things in the plus 50, right? Like it's a ball that the gunners are supposed to down, and can he do a good job, decoying this way, or maybe he's blocking, or some of the ways that guys set blocks in the open field. Like there's not a lot of things that I could say, boy, he really struggled with this, because Greg's got a pretty good skill set with most everything. I think that with the reps and the timing and the things that we've been exposed to, he's been able to kind of grow from those experiences on what we'd like him to do.
You had I know the question earlier was about Andy. Also, you had one of the more experienced 3 guys in the league. Now you have Nolan, who's relatively inexperienced. What's your level of confidence that he's going to be fine at both jobs?
Yeah, we think Nolan's got a chance to be pretty good. There's certainly a lot of options, when it comes to punters, right? Like there's guys who have punted in the league, and we felt good about where Nolan's at right now. He went head-to-head with Matt, and Nolan won the job. And it wasn't that Matt did a bad job. Nolan just punted really well. So there's, again, going back to the question about week 1, it's week 1, right? The lights are on for the first time. So there's always, guys that are inexperienced or unproven, and that's their time to shine. So we certainly think he's capable of that, and that's our expectation on Sunday.
Where are you going to be doing all the action at? Up top or on the field?
Field, I like it down there. I kind of hit on that in the preseason too, because I talked about I was a booth guy my whole career except for 1 year, and I hated it, right? So I was like, booth. But when you can stand as a play caller, you don't necessarily have to stand with your position to make sure that you're getting the guys in and out of the game, right? And so, poor position coaches. Poor Sam, coaching the backers, right? He's got to stand somewhere between the sticks. And I just felt like as a play caller, when you can stand, it depends on where the ball is on the field. You either standing behind the defense or the offense, you can see it a little bit better. And we got great coaches that are upstairs that can give me any information that I needed that I don't see, but I felt like I could see enough information that I needed to see on the field. And I love being there with the players on the field as well, whether that's corrections, whether that's just feeling the tone or the vibe I'm getting from the players. Like, that's important to be able to connect with those guys, in my opinion. So, field.
Nick, this may be an odd question, but you like to stand on the line of scrimmage, like right there with the defense, or do you like to stand?
No, see, that's why I can't see it well from the line of scrimmage. The one year that I was on the field, JG was on the field, but he was way back. And when you're on the line of scrimmage, you really can't see great in the run game. You can see the routes decently well. But, JG would be like, what happened there, Nick? I would be like, I don't know. Was it a run or a pass? I'm not quite sure. I'm on the line of scrimmage here. So definitely not get away from the line of scrimmage. That's the hardest spot for me to see the game.
What's the relationship like with you guys, Jonathan, during the game on that headset? Do you have carte blanche to do whatever you want, or is he clicking over telling you, let's do this here?
No, he's phenomenal. He lets me go. But I definitely will pose him with some questions like, JG, you thinking this here? And I love having that resource. And honestly, I do it with my entire staff too. And he's obviously over with us. And, the continuity between us helps, because a lot of times I'm thinking he's thinking what I'm thinking. And I like that verification of, hey, you thinking this here? And he's like, do it. Or sometimes he'll be like, you thinking what I'm thinking? I'll be like, I don't know. What are you thinking? He'd be like, never mind, just call out. I was like, what are you thinking? Tell me what you're thinking. No, I don't know. So, but yeah, he gives me that ability, and I use him as a resource for sure.
You don't want to say this, but JG said Drew was calm on the headset. What are you?
I'm on game day. I'm very calm. A little bit of no emotion for me on game day. To me, emotion is the absence of rational thought. And ultimately, for me to be at my best and serve the players best is to be completely separated from any kind of emotion and just be very tactical with my thoughts. And so, I've separated that. Even being on the field, I've separated from it. So, if you see a good play, you probably won't see me celebrating. That's just because I'm happy it happened, but I don't really get up or down during the game, and that's why it's after if you have a big win as a team, I've never been a good celebrator. So I'm still in a mode of no emotion. So I'm kind of in the locker room afterwards, just yeah, good job. Yep, that's what we wanted to do. Yep. Yeah, people are like, geez, what's this guy's problem? It's just that's kind of how I am on game day.
How hard is that to do? When did you get to that point where you knew that was the best way for you?
My first year coaching when I was in college, man, I feel like I was a nervous Nelly. I was up in the box. I would sit up in the box like this. I was like this, calling the personnel. Just oh gosh. After that, I calmed down a little bit. So I think just confidence brings a sense of calmness. And so kind of, after that first year, never called personnel before or seen a game up in a box. That was weird. And then, as time went, just as you feel like you get good at seeing what it is you're supposed to see, your role within the game day, I think just it kind of happened naturally for me, the calmness.
Are you a guy, as you go into this first regular season game, obviously all of us are waiting to see, okay, what this defense looks like. Do you feel like you have a good sense of what you're going to see Sunday, or is there a curiosity for you of what you're going to see?
A little bit of both, I would say. I think week to week, you want to have a sense where I think this is what we're going to be, but ultimately we have to put it together throughout the week for it to look like what you want it to look like on game day, right? And the best thing you can do to make that happen is not be thinking about what you want it to be like on game day and what if it happens? Oh, I'm going to be very excited. Or what if it doesn't happen? Now I'm having doubt. No. What do I have to do today? What do I have to do right now to help us get to that point where I know where we want to be, I know where I want us to be, I know where the players want to be. How do I help that right now in this moment? So just staying present with it is key, I think, to get the success that you want.
With Bieniemy coming up from KC, you got Hal, one game under his belt. Like, where did you even begin prep for this?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. Sam had that game that he played last year that you can always look at, and we didn't prepare for Sam ever when I was in Philadelphia, but we went against a lot of the similar players offensively, so familiarity there. You use the preseason as well, and then you definitely use Bieniemy's past, obviously in KC, obviously the last game of last season. For me personally and for JG, we are going up against Bieniemy. So collective use of all those things to try to put the best game plan together.
Is Wallace a guy who can make an impact for you defensively right away?
Yeah. Good player. Happy he's here. Obviously, probably don't crinkle the water bottle right in front of the mic, huh? See, that's why there's no water for me. They know I couldn't handle it, right? Obviously, the familiarity from Philly, I know this guy is intelligent, he loves football, and he plays the game with high motor and violence. So, and that's what we look for defensively. So, yeah, I think he'll make a good impact on our defense.
What about Thomas on the waiver claim?
Yeah, very excited. I think he's got huge upside. Not as familiar as Kayvon is with our system, but he's extremely smart, and he's picking up on it fast. So I'm excited to the combination of high character, intelligent, and physical abilities, excited to work with him going forward.
Obviously, you want to see the whole defense as a whole perform, but is there one position group out of them that you really got your thumb on it that you want to see?
Come on, man. I don't know. I want to see them all. No, I can't pinpoint one. I'm excited to watch all those guys go out there, and they put in a lot of hard work, every position. I feel like there's leaders in every group. I feel like there's workers in every group. I feel like it's a phenomenal group collectively, every position, and they've worked hard to get to this week. Now we got to stack a couple days here, but come Sunday, I hope they all let it loose.
Nick, will you have enough guys defensively that you feel understand the defense enough that they can just go play?
Absolutely, yeah, and to me that's a credit to the players and the position coaches of getting prepared for this moment, right? Starting back in OTAs through training camp, that's the physical preparation that goes into our strength coaches, director of performance, athletic training staff, all that, like getting these guys ready to play there, but also the coaches, getting them schematically, technically ready to play. I feel like they're in a good spot, and we're going to put another good week together of preparation and let it loose.
Do you know who your two corners are, your two starting corners?
Yeah, we're still every week. That kind of stuff can be adjustable, and we're working through that internally here still.
What's the upside to not having consistent starters? I mean, and it might end up being that way, but for now.
Every game, JG talks about adaptability, right? And so depending on who you're playing and the scheme that you're playing, your scheme and who you're playing might look different, or what matchups you're trying to create might look different. And, every guy can bring different strengths to the table that maybe attack certain things that you want to get done week to week, whether that's scheme-wise, whether that's against another player. And so you can best use those matchups how you see fit week to week. So that's kind of with like that adaptability piece of scheme versus scheme, scheme versus player, player versus player. Those all kind of fit into, here's how we can change things week to week to best try to win the game.
Overall, from the Washington offense, what do you see that will be a challenge for you guys?
Yeah, I think I would start with their skill players. Like they have three really good receivers that, to me, like Curtis Samuel, dangerous with the ball in his hand. Terry McLaurin can run. He's strong. He's a physical player. He's a explosive play waiting to happen. And then Jahan Dotson is a crisp route runner. So we got to be able to cover. Like this is a really good receiving core from top to bottom. I think even when Brown or Pringle come in the game, those are guys that are good receivers as well. The backs are big. They're physical runners. We better tackle well, otherwise there's going to be hidden yardage in there. And so far in the preseason, the quarterback has played really well. He's playing efficient, making smart decisions. And then on top of that, it's a really good scheme. So I think overall, like there's a lot of things that these guys present challenges to, and it leads to a fun opportunity ahead.
As part of a younger staff, coaching staff, how does it help you relate to some of the guys who are not even, that much younger than you?
I don't know, man. I'm just cool because I'm young, No, I feel like I've said this before. Like, to me, being young doesn't help me relate. Honestly, because they actually call me a nerd, so I take back what I said. They think I'm nerdy. I don't necessarily agree with that. So I don't think I necessarily relate because of my youth. I think I relate because I'm intentionally connecting with guys and getting to know them beyond football. And that, I think, coupled with if I can show them that I can make them better, that ultimately brings that connection closer. If you show them that, hey, this is where I want to go in my career and you can help me get there, like I want to be connected with you. So, I think I've said this before, like I hope I can connect with players still when I'm old and coaching, like that. To me, it's not about having similar backgrounds or age or anything like that. It's the interactions on a day-to-day basis and having the social ability to connect with people, not just players, other staff, the entire building. That's important.
Any nerves for you or butterflies this week?
Well, it's Tuesday, so no, not right now. Yeah, I think every week, you're going to have levels of anxiety, right? And your ability to manage those is critical. Going back to that piece of you don't want to be too emotional on game day. Well, you also don't want to be high anxiety. You want to be in an optimal state psychologically to perform. And so, a little bit of anxiety I think is okay, just to have that alertness. And you don't want to be flat or not motivated, but being able to manage that through breathing, through visualization, through your thoughts, your focus, I think is critical. And it starts now and it continues throughout the week. So that's something that I am very cognizant of and work on. And it's never, I'm good at it now, I'm good to go. It's your psychological preparation is forever continuing, and you got to continue to try to get better psychologically. So, yeah, there'll be anxiety. Naturally, good. I'm glad there is. It's about being able to manage that so I can go out, perform, and do my job at a high level.
You mentioned staying present. You always hear about players have to put a bad play behind them, even if they're good play. Concentrate on the next play. Is that certainly a big part of your job, or whatever happens on a play that's in the past?
Yeah, that goes for coaches and players. We talk about it a lot as far as acknowledging what happened or having awareness for what happened, acknowledge it, correct it, and then let's move forward and be in the present. And you'll probably hear me talking to players, you'll hear players talking to players, you'll hear players talking to me. Hey, present, okay, what do we got to do? Correct it. Boom, boom, we get the correction. Now let's go. It's over with. Resilient. We work on that. We talk about it a lot.
Jeff just was asked about week one in general and kind of uncertainty with a new group and just uncertainty just because it's a new season, but he said it's full of surprises. So during a game, obviously you go in prepared, but I mean, that can really determine the outcome, right? How well you handle some of those surprises, whether it's within your team and the personnel and what they're doing, or the opponent.
Yeah, known unknowns, right? You know that something's going to come up that you're not necessarily prepared for. And I think you can try to prepare as much as possible as far as whether that's scheme-wise or personnel-wise. If this happens, we got to get ready for this, be ahead of it. But there's going to be stuff that comes up that you're not ready for, or I shouldn't say you're not ready for, you're not aware of that it will happen. And I think ultimately that problem solving within a game, whether it's week 1 or week 17, is critical to be able to think critically on your feet, right? Think fast on your feet and maybe go to something that you didn't think of throughout the week and correct it or get it better. I do think the importance of, I talked about anxiety week one. I think there is a higher level of it because we haven't yet, played a real game collectively as a group. And so the more you can manage that and really focus on executing what we know we can execute, our staples, like that's critical, that execution week one. So the better you can perform how you've been performing at practice, I think it takes away some of those variables as well.
A guy like Gardeck, was he kind of under the radar before you got here, when you first got in here, and where is he now? Obviously, you got the captain tag. He's been with the Ones.
Yeah, so I had some familiarity with Dennis because when I was actually in Philly, he was brought to my attention because he was such a good player. So I was able to look at him and I knew what his game was coming in. I was really excited about it because he's such a Swiss Army knife. He can do a lot of different things at a high level. That's the key, right? Like, it's not just he can do a lot of things. He can do a lot of things at a high level. And he's played extremely well in every phase, to be honest. I think he can rush. He's got elite bend. Anything I ask him to do in coverage, he can get it done. And he's so low, he can really set good edges in the run game. And I love the guy, and I love to see where his career is going. I think he's going to continue to get better. I'm so happy he's a captain. He is a leader of this team, and he's a phenomenal resource for me. He'll bring stuff to my attention, and I'm like, oh, like you're a smart player. Like, thank you for bringing that to my attention. That was a pretty bad call. Thank you, Dennis. Like, good point. That's really happened. Like, oh, yep, you are right. I shouldn't have called that one right there. Like, and I love having a guy like that. Phenomenal player.
What stands out about the other two defensive guys who were captains? The other guys.
Yeah. So, where do I start? I'll talk about them both. Right. They are high character guys that you love being around. They bring every day. They're smiling, bringing energy, and they both play similar in the sense of, you know what I'm going to say, high motor and violent, right? Like they live that, and I mean, you know how I feel about those guys. They carry the flag for what I want to be defensively. I think JG would say they carry the flag for what he wants his team to look like. But yeah, I mean, what a privilege for me to be able to work with those guys.
Is a big thing that you're wondering about with the number of pass rushers you have, how that's all going to play out with the rotation and production and all those things, that it's kind of a wide open book with not a lot of real proven guys there.
Yeah, I'm excited to, that's something we're still working through. Excited to every week kind of fit the pieces to the puzzle on what we think is best to do in terms of the pass rush, right? Because there are a lot of guys that can do some things really well. And I'm excited to see guys' games. You talk about no one's really proven yet. I'm excited for guys to be able to go out there on Sundays and take their game to the next level and hopefully prove themselves and be well respected amongst the NFL of, hey, this guy's a really good rusher for these reasons, right? Every rusher is different. Different types of rushes are going to present different issues for different offensive linemen. And I'm excited to kind of fit the pieces to the puzzle on a week-to-week basis of where we think guys should be rushing, who should be rushing in certain packages. So that's kind of a fun, forever adapting by the game thing for us.
So when you studied Sam Howell, what stood out?
I think his decision-making. He's for one, he's very calm in the pocket. He's not rushed. He keeps his eyes down the field. He has ability to move, but he can also throw it on time. And just his ability to recognize where he needs to go with the ball, get it out of his hands. Oh, it's not there. Let me move around, keep my eyes down the field. I'm not going to put the ball in harm's way. It was very impressive in the preseason.
For a guy with one start, I mean, that's sort of the anomaly, right? I mean, to be able to do that with one career start.
Yeah, I mean, he's put himself in a position he's become that player. He's a good player. So one start, no starts, 20 starts, like that's where he's at as a player. So yeah, impressive for, you're saying that one start, that's a little bit out of character, a guy to be able to be that ahead of the game mentally. Credit to him. He's doing a good job.
A couple of the offensive guys have mentioned just the attitude and the competitiveness from Keytrell Clark? What stands out to you?
Yeah, I would agree with that. He's feisty in there, but I think also his skill set is one of a good cover corner. I think he can run, right? That's critical for a corner. You got to be able to deny the ball, stay on top of routes. I think he can do that. He can stay on top of routes, intermediate routes. He's got the ability to go from A to B and drive it and finish on the ball. So he's definitely a competitive, feisty dude.
He has on guys.
Yes. Yes. As a normal book, I guess, is he actually brought that on his 30 visit. He's got a lot of notes. He is a pro. He's a very, very mature rookie. Takes it very serious, wants to be great.